audio check. Alright, so it looks like we had some technical difficulties at the start here. So, welcome to SFM Official for stint number 3 of the TORA Le Mans Revisite. I am your host, SFM Darkser, and I will be bringing you stints number 3 and 4 before handing over to Snuffleupagus. So, right now we are waiting for host AMS Mead to get a couple of drivers in that were double stinting stint number 3. So we'll give them a few minutes and then we will get things rolling. And this is stint number 3, as I said, of 12. This is a 24-hour race, 12 stints of 1 hour, 40 minutes apiece. And it is a very, very, very long day here. So that's where we're at. And yeah. Now, something that we teased a little bit earlier was the spotter's guide here that was being assembled by TORA's media person, THR Flat. And that spotter guide is now available, so we will be attempting to get that up and available for everybody. Hopefully it's able to be downloaded. Not quite sure where that's at. And I think my two co-commentators have joined the booth. Everybody say hello to Snuffleupagus and Avcracy. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Perfect. You know, I'm just typically dead inside. Alright, and we are now hearing that we are ready to go. So as soon as they're able to load the track and stuff, we'll be good. And it should also be noted that LMR Harmonic, your current pole sitter for this stint, is actually driving sick. He is not feeling very well. He's complaining of body aches. So it's going to be a struggle for him. He did pretty good stint number 3, or stint number 2 rather, taking a approximately 2-mile lead over me. Business as usual for Harmonic. But he is fighting ill right now. So let's take you through the grid here for this particular race. So we've got LMR Harmonic on the front row alongside Ace Captain Slow in the SFM car as we're loading in here. And then we're going to have TLR Scrublord and LSEM Toru, who we're going to ride on board with for the start. SSR Pink, LSEM Boost, and AMS Mead. Mead rolled it in stint number 1, and Toru disconnected, so he'll be falling down the order in the next stints. Roadrunner in South lead off GT, followed by Venom and Servi, with Turismo and Zero in the third row. So this is going to start as we get under the Dunlop Bridge in the first sector of Le Mans. And you're going to see the cars going 80 miles per hour single file, and they're going to accelerate out of the turn, under the bridge, and off into the big leagues. So Av, Snuff, you guys ready for this? Alright. Now, it would help if you guys could actually see what we were looking at, wouldn't it? Generally. Alright, and it looks like we might be getting a restart. It looks like Turismo has disconnected, so yeah, we're going to be restarting this lobby here. Technical issues, we'll call it a radio failure, just for semantics. And there's been a few SIs, which we can go into while we get ready for what's happening here. If you guys want to explain it to our lovely viewers what's happening. Snuff, I'm just going to say hold that thought for 1 second, because apparently nobody can hear a word you're saying. So we're going to try that again. Test 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear me now? One, two,
Okay,
three.
so now you guys should be coming through, so apologies to our viewers for that slight technical difficulty. Hopefully my PC doesn't catch on fire like AliTax did earlier in Stint 1 for YMTV. So let's try that again. As I was saying, there were some incidents earlier in the stints, and supposedly some bad things happened, and for some reason we have not been able to load into the stint. I don't know what happened there. That was bizarre. Try again here. Alright, looks like we are underway here on the start. Gonna ride on board with LSEM TORA. Alrighty. So, the incidents. Right. So stint 1, we saw LSEM the Butler get a 5,000 foot drop for causing an incident with a GT car. We saw Drager's ex-Ferrari and B-Lobby get a 10,000 foot for causing an accident while passing off track 3 wide and hitting a GT car. And we saw somebody get disqualified in Lobby 2 for an egregious instance of revenge murder. And we're underway here. So Harmonic checking out up front, riding on board with Toru. TLR Scrublord still holding in the 3rd position behind Ace Captain Slow. And you see SSR, whoever that is. I believe it is SSR Inc. behind. So this is stint number 3 of the Le Mans Revisite. Now, if some of you guys remember a couple years ago seeing a young man named HCR HDT, that is who TLR Scrublord is. Used to be on the same team as Mead, Allied Forces. Then they were both not there, and now they're not there again, so here's Mead. So look for Mead and Scrublord if they do get close to each other to not leave each other very much room. But it's going to be a very exciting battle if those two do get together. And another note for this stint, Ace Captain Slow is pretty consistent, but not the quickest driver in the number 3. He's going to be playing caboose, but in front, trying to make the Yarno Trulli train going on here. So some interesting strategies going to be unfolding. And let's see how this battle heads up into the first slow section of this track, just to see how Ace holds up here. A little bit of a tap from Scrublord, but that's to be expected. But let's jump back to those GTs now, see how the start has gone. Looks like Servi is a little bit farther behind South, who's in turn behind Venom, who's behind Roadrunner. Ambitious move from Turismo there in the other Porsche. It's going to send Zero off into SSR Pink. And a little bit of contact was made, so not very good driving from Turismo at the start. But we are on board with the Aerox car RZM Servi. I shouldn't say Aerox, it's RZM now, they're rebranded. Old habits die hard, right guys? So we're heading into Indianapolis, so named because there are bricks from Indianapolis buried under the corner. It used to actually be a brick corner, but they had to repave it due to some French motoring laws. See that SVR purple car there up front still. They finished in the 2nd position in the last stint, just behind TPR Zermatt, who is in the JSR Jota car, which is the green Aston Martin. There was a question about the Aston Martin BOP before this race. Some people were thinking that it might have been a little too fast. Some were thinking that it was just fine. No one group really was able to disprove the other, so staff opted to leave the car as is. And this is where we're at now. We've got some really fast guys in a lot of different cars really close to each other. So it's still Roadrunner ahead of Venom, that being RBR Venom. Yes, Red Bull Racing, Esports, partnering up with G2 for the FRC. It's going to be him, Malaysian Box. And then Williams, yes, the F1 team Williams, Roadrunner first. Jumping on back a little bit, we're going to look at Mr. Drive here. He's going to be battling with SSR Outlet TJ and LSEM Zero. These three were pretty close in qualifying. I think Mr. Drive the only one to get a 54. But all those cars were relatively close to each other in terms of the overall qualifying pace. So, Mr. Drive doing a decent job of holding his position there in the SFM Pegasus car, painted by Cowmaster. It's a Manthai throwback. Nice orange accents there. And it looks like Koenigsegg R, Z-Bot, and BM Sunshine may have had a problem. They're a little bit farther back than I would have expected them to be. Here's Sunshine at the back. And you can see there's a Bit of a gap up to Koenigsegg, who is pitting. All right, so Koenigsegg must have had an issue at the beginning there, because normally you wouldn't be pitting this early. It's not a typical pit stop time. So he must have had an issue. And that's going to mean that Z-Bot might have some issues as well. Solar, if that was you asking, that's Z-Bot in the pink and black Corvette. And if you just take a look at our map here, you'll see that the prototype cars pull out about the entire back straight per lap. The difference between the classes is about 40 seconds, 35, 40 seconds, depending on the drivers. And it's a pretty substantial gap that grows exponentially as you go. You'd think Le Mans is pretty long, so the drivers don't have to worry about each other too much, but every 5 or 6 laps, you're going to see guys starting to get overlapped. And that's going to really throw the prototype drivers for a loop, because you have to navigate some surprisingly tight corners on this very wide French public road, basically. So it looks like Z-Bot's in a world of his own at the moment, so we're going to move back up to the prototypes just to see what's going on. It looks like Ace has been passed already by Mead and Toru and Scrublord. So a bit of a downward slide for the number 3. It's still going to be LMR Harmonic out front. And it looks like there's been an incident with Toru and Scrublord, so he's going to fall back. Let's see if he has damage. Coming off that disconnect in the last stint, he's not going to be too happy coming into this one. Let's take a look at that telemetry. So no damage there, but that has been known to lie to us, so he still might have a problem. If he does have damage, we'll see it manifest in the Porsche curves. A lot of times if you get any sort of suspension issue, the car will just snap spin on you. You can see Ace sliding a little bit there in the white Audi R18, or R15, excuse me. And that Peugeot is just glued to the road. So no damage for Toru. He's doing just fine. And this is going to let Harmonic just open up that gap a little bit more at the front, just so he can stretch his legs a little bit, try to relax, because he has to conserve his energy because he is not feeling well. So this is where P1's at. Ace trying to go up the inside of Toru. Thinks better of it. It's going to let the SSR car catch right back up. I think that's Ink, I want to say. Yep, it is Ink. Nice little group of 3 cars here battling it out for the 3rd and 4th positions and 5th. Looks like Sunshine is starting to make inroads on the back of the GT field. Z-Bot as well a little bit. These guys are going to be a little bit slower than normal because they're battling at the start. That's just how these things tend to go. Riding on board with Marshmallow here. You see Turismo and the ESV car getting very, very loose. That's a textbook poo your pants moment in a GT car. There is not a lot of room to recover in that section of the track. It's basically flat out. And I just did a stint in the LMP1. If a car comes up behind you there, you really cannot change your line in a GT because you might just crash into them and take everybody out. And that's what we saw in B-Lobby Stint 1 with Drager's X-Ferrari and Foxy Gaming having that issue caused by the off-track slide pass failure move there. Just see these Porsches do not look happy coming out of the Ford chicanes there. Lots of wheel spin going on. And unlike in the LMP1 cars, where a lot of the drivers are going to be using traction control, not a lot of the drivers are going to be using traction control in the GT cars, just because you don't really need it. And if you see the wheel spin stepping out the back, it's a pretty good indicator that the driver is not running the traction system, just so they can have a little bit more control over what specifically is going on with their car. And Snauf, have you obtained your breakfast yet, my good sir?
I've actually already eaten it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what pray tell have you consumed on this wonderful, wonderful summer afternoon here?
Apfelkuchen, orange juice, and a beer.
Oh, yeah. Good man, good man.
Yeah, I don't know how well they're going to go together, but it seemed like a good idea, and by a good idea, I mean that's what was in the fridge, so I ate it.
The best plans of broadcasters. So, Snuff, you just did a stint in a Porsche, like the ones that we're riding on board with here. Anything in particular that you noticed that the car was doing that would impact how you would approach this stint if you were in these guys' position?
Well, the Porsche is a rocket ship out of the slow corners. If you have it set up right, you can mat the throttle and absolutely launch, especially out of the chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight, and then again out of both Arnage and under the Dunlop Bridge. It suffers a bit in the Porsche curves. The Porsche suffers in the Porsche curves. Yes, the irony is not lost on me. And it doesn't quite have the top end that something like the Ferrari does. The Ferrari is an absolute missile once you get to top speed. For these two, if they're not losing too much time, the biggest weakness would be that ultimate top speed pace, I think. So if they could stay together and draft, they could actually mitigate that, get up to Ferrari's top speed while keeping that low speed corner exit. And at that point, I think they're in good shape.
Alright, so Snuff thinking that the Porsches do have a chance here in this stint. It's good, always good to the words. What even is the English language? It's always good to have insight from the drivers that are just coming off of a stint, just for some more accurate comparisons of what's going on. Up in LMP1, Scrubblord is starting to extend his gap over AMS Mead and Toru, with a little bit further back to Ace and SSR Inc., and LSCM Boost a little bit off the back. But the lead battle in GT looks like it's still pretty close. Servi just a little bit behind the three Astons of South, Venom, and Roadrunner. And Snuff, there were a few Astons in your stint. What's it like going wheel to wheel with an Aston?
That car is really, really quick, and part of that has to come down to the drivers. The lineups in those cars are quite good. It's an auditory experience, I'll tell you that. Those Aston Martins, because they are not exactly the GTE car, you get the added benefit of listening to the V12 from the GT3 car, and it's a little intimidating sometimes when you hear it rev all the way out. It's one of the only cars on track that's actually louder than the Porsche.
I bet.
I didn't get a chance to spend too much time wheel to wheel with them. I spent most of the race around Vipers and Corvettes. But it looks like they're going well at the front. I've heard the concerns about BOP, and I don't know. People are going to have their opinions on that, and it's difficult to get a full field of various GT cars like this exactly on pace, and I think they are close enough that we should still have a good race.
Alright. And that is kind of what we want to hear. You want the cars to be as close as possible. And it's never a perfect science. There's always human error. Some people are faster in their builds, whatever. But the dev team did a pretty good job, I think most people would say, with this set of builds.
Divine in chat pointing out the nerf to the Z4. That is correct. That is one of the balance changes that was made before the race. The Z4 had some controversy as to its inclusion in the car list at all. And I believe as a result of the nerf that it received, seeing as it had initially been incredibly fast, nobody actually chose to drive it. So all that controversy was for naught.
Yeah, the issue, quote-unquote, with the Z4 was it just had absolutely insane acceleration. And while it wasn't necessarily overpowered in any one specific corner, over the course of the 8.5 miles, it really added up to be an excessive advantage, and that's why, as Snuff was saying, the dev team opted to lower its speed a little bit. It looks like we've got a battle for a lead on our hands here. You can see just how tiny this gap is now between Roadrunner South and Venom. Roadrunner in the purple car on the left side here. He's going to be trying to throw it up the inside onto the second chicane here. To Irralentisia, as they say in France. See if he's going to be able to hold it. Not quite. Venom's going to get the edge out of the corner, and that's going to set South up to be in the draft, but on the wrong side. So he's going to have to pick which side he wants. And you know who's going to be happy about that, Snuff?
I don't, actually, because I've just looked away. But tell me.
Servi. It's going to be Servi.
Oh, it is, yeah. And you're not wrong.
Because he's not in this lead battle, but he's close enough to where if they make even one little mistake, he can capitalize and jump right back into the fray. Oh, and there he goes, making a mistake. So, the opposite of what Servi wanted to do, he just hit the inside tire wall there. Something that happens all too often in endurance races and hoppers in Forza. A couple of years ago in the real 24 Hours of Le Mans, Keiko Ihara in one of the LMP2s hit a cone there several times and then eventually was parked. So it's a mistake that happens all the time. Almost every driver is going to do it at least once or twice. No big deal. So that's where we're at. Going into Arnage here. There's a little tire wall nub on the left side that sticks out. It's been lovingly called Roadrunner Curved after Roadrunner died there in the FRC last year. So if you hear us referring to that corner as Roadrunner Corner, that's why. Alright, and let's bring everybody up to date on those stewards inquiries, because we did mention it, but without going into detail. So thus far, TLR Scrubboard, warning for track limits, Stint 1. RZM Servi, warning for track limits in the pit lane, Stint 1. LSCM the Butler, warning for track limits, Stint 1. Draggers X Ferrari, 10,000 feet, collision while passing off track, Stint 1. LSCM the Butler, 5,000 feet, causing avoidable collision, Stint 1. BDF 48 Gaming, 5,000 foot drop, excessive track cutting. Stint DQ, Captain Slow GTR, failing to stop at the end of the race. He actually did a full extra lap. And all drivers are reminded to adhere to the start and finish procedures as per host's instructions. So there you have it. Head steward Hunty has been pretty busy all day, taking no prisoners here with the steward's inquiries. And it looks like there's been a change for lead, Snuff.
It does. While we were watching the fourth placed BMW, these three Aston Martins have been scrapping it out. And I saw somebody in chat, I believe it was Mushies earlier, concerned that they might just draft off each other and run away, but they look like they're inclined to have a go. Whenever they get a chance, they are pulling up alongside each other and having a look.
Yeah.
However, I think he's correct. If they do decide to settle down and form a three-car train, it's going to be a tall order for anybody else to catch up to these three Astons today.
Yeah. And just falling in line and drafting is not exactly unheard of in TORA endurance races. A couple of years ago, we saw Harmonic and Virus, I believe it was, draft the Viper behind, I want to say, a 4GT. And they were actually able to pull out a completely extra pit stop on everybody else. So there's required pit stops in this race, so that specific scenario is unlikely to happen. But the it can happen, where you can gain a pretty good advantage by doing that. So something tells me this battle is going to be here for a bit, so it looks like the LMP1 cars are about to start catching GT traffic. So let's watch Harmonic as he sights his way through, just to show everybody the decision-making that has to be made so quickly here at the Circuit de la Sarthe in France.
Yeah, there's certainly spots on this track where it's much easier for prototypes to overtake, and there's certain spots where we should probably think twice about it. Here on the Mulsanne Straight, of course, would be the ideal location. With the speed that they can carry through the chicanes, both to the right and to the left, it's very easy if you can get a run on a car to just sail past them on the straight. However, mid-corner, if you catch a car, it gets a bit more difficult. The GT cars don't necessarily have the grip to tighten up their line if a proto suddenly appears alongside them, and that nearly happened to me in Stint 2. One of the Peugeots came up along the inside into the Xbox chicane, the first one on the Mulsanne Straight, and I simply had to turn in because the alternative was going straight off into the tire wall ahead of me.
Yeah.
So there are locations where you really do have to pick and choose your spots. You can see there Harmonic going past the SFM Pegasus 911 on the straight, easy as can be. And it looks like he's going to get these next two cars as well before he gets down to Mulsanne.
And it's not like those guys are going slow. They're hitting about 160. It's just the Peugeot has just absolutely brutal acceleration out of the corners. So he's going to be pushing about 225 miles per hour into Mulsanne Corner here. So I was hoping you were going to see a few people getting past in the braking zone there, but having done an hour 40 in a P1 car last stint, you say a little prayer every time that the car in front of you is going to clear that corner before you get there, because it is not easy to slow down when the GT car is there.
Well, you don't necessarily say a little prayer. Sometimes you say a loud prayer. Since a lot of these drivers in the GT party are on the mic talking to each other, you'll hear the communication. When someone towards the back of the GT train will call out that the leaders are coming, you'll hear someone at the front of the GT train say, "Please get by me before the Porsche curves. Please do it. Get by me now, you pleb. Hurry up and get past me." It's the only time I've heard drivers begging to be passed.
Yeah. The typical race car driver plan is to, not want to get past, but sometimes you just gotta send it. So Harmonic is almost catching the rest of these GT guys. Shout out to Scottson for this beautiful PlayStation paint, throwing it back to the real-life PlayStation paint that the Peugeot team ran on one of their cars, and I want to say 2009 it was, maybe? But this is a paint with a lot of history, and Scottson did really well to replicate it in Forza. Alright, here's a pass you don't necessarily want. You see the pit lane there? I thought that GT car was going to go through Ford, but if you're in a P1 and you get stuck behind a GT car in Ford, you lose like 5 seconds. Isn't that right, Snuff?
It is. I may have done that to one of our P1 drivers in the SFM car in the Ford chicanes in that last stint. Sorry about that, Dark.
It's all right.
I did my best to get on the gas and get out of the way at the exit so you could hopefully lose as little time as possible, and it's just... especially in the Porsche, which struggles with understeer sometimes when you're changing direction like that, there's really nowhere to go. So in the prototype, your best bet at that point is just to take the brief hit, wait, be patient, you'll get them on exit, because if you try to go too wide through there, it will end in tears.
Yeah, and that's what I ended up doing. I just waited a little bit and got you across the line. Alright, so now we're going to see Harmonic actually catching people into a braking zone. It's going to be extremely tight here, and then we're going to go take a look at those GT cars that everybody loves so much. Also hearing from Scott that this livery was run in 2010, not 2009, so I was close, but not quite. Alright, here's the braking zone that I was talking about. Move just a little to the inside, lick the stamp, send it, and that's how you do it. And now
Neatly done. No major dramas there, and I would say, for those of you who know Forza, for those of you who know Scott, if Scott gives you a fact about the Peugeot, take it as gospel.
Yeah, that man knows the sports cars.
This man, he knows this car in particular.
And speaking of Scott, there's the other elusive car. I think that's Turismo at the wheel right now. Yeah, it is Turismo, okay. And doesn't look like we're going to get to see any other dramatic overtakes from Harmonic, so let's go back and investigate those GT cars now. Hearing that some people may have pitted. I don't see any evidence of that at the moment. But out front, it is still Roadrunner South, and... okay, so maybe somebody did pit.
Interesting. I wasn't expecting any of the Astons to pit off sequence with each other unless they think that they can manage to get into clean air at the front. If one of them feels like they could go faster by getting out of the train, I could understand it, but I feel like if the other two work together, they'll be able to negate that advantage.
It actually looks like Venom made a mistake, because he's still within distance. You see race leader Harmonic go back through there. So Venom has fallen back a little bit. You can see that yellow car in the background, just behind Servi. There's TLR Scrublord going to be making his way through as well on these two guys. So little room. Oh, there's been a mistake. Scrublord and Venom have come together in Arnage. That's going to knock Venom back about a second or two. See the LCM car go by. That's Toru, I believe. So something has happened there. Scrublord probably just missed his braking zone. Easy mistake to make. Everybody's going to do it at least once during the race. So 1 or 2 seconds lost there for the JSR Aston Martin. And there goes Scrublord off at the Porsche curves, right in front of, oh my gosh, the Peugeot of AMS, so that's going to be Mead going by. So Scrublord almost took out Mead there. Good thing Mead was paying attention. There he goes. You might see him duck into the pit lane now. There's a whole gaggle of cars going through the Ford chicanes right now. So we're going to jump back up to Scrublord as Venom ducks into the pit lane.
So we talked about the couple of seconds that were lost after that incident between, I think it was Scrublord and the Aston at Arnage, but that loss might be compounded, and that's one of the reasons why Le Mans is such a technical, such a demanding track that punishes mistakes. Not even your mistakes, just
Scrublord goes around.
Scrublord spawned backwards, and that's the exit of Dunlop. That is an odd spot to lose it.
Yep, that is a dangerous spot to lose it too, because everybody's going to be flat out over the hill. Luckily, no damage there. Ace Captain Slow slipping through, a couple of GTs as well. So Scrublord having a horrible exit into the start of Dunlop. Oh, maybe not exit the game. And losing it. Lucky to get away with that. So Snuff, you were saying?
I was going to say that in a race like this, as it settles down and it spaces out, and you talk about getting drafting partners, as wow, the Scrub Lord, though, with the drive out of Tetra Rouge, going right past Ace Captain slow down before even the first chicane. When you end up nose to tail in a battle, you can really gain a lot of time if you decide to work together. But if you get dropped off the back, whether from your own mistake or someone else's, they decide that they just want to leave you for dead, that you have to look for a new friend somewhere. You have to find something to do, because if nobody makes a mistake, those two that are paired up are just going to walk away from you.
Okay, so just back to Ace Captain Slow there. I think he's running a little bit of an arrow just to try to stabilize the car, and that's going to significantly slow him down as we go through the laps here. No damage on that car, so just running a little bit of a more conservative setup. So that explains Ace's complete lack of straight line speed there. Let's bring our map back up here.
So Darcher, you painted this number 3 car. What car is this a reference to? Remind me again.
Yes, so this is based off of the early 2000s Champion Racing Audi R8 LMP1 car. So I found some photos and tried to map it onto the R15, which was exceedingly difficult to do, but here it is. Got some nice ADT going on. I think this was the JT Leto car that I recreated. Pretty cool. There's actually a lot of teams running throwbacks now that you mentioned it. Your car, Snauf, currently being piloted by Mr. Drive, is a Manti Racing tribute from a couple years back. You can see the Porsche Intelligent Design on there. Pretty sure one of the SVR cars is a throwback. Kind of looks like the old Orica, but a different color.
Have Matt in chat claiming he's retired after fighting at the sharp end of the GT field for his entire stint. Oh, that's retired. Shoot, can I get some of that retirement?
Yeah, seriously. Matt being TPR Zermatt. And I'm 99% sure that TPR is now part of Sauber. So I think Zermatt is their coach, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. For the FRC. GT field is really starting to get spread out now. We're going to jump back to Koenigsegg again, just to watch one of these mid-pack battles. We got SSR Marshmallow, Koenigsegg R, and SVR Bradders battling for position in the Porsche curves. Beautiful Viper paint by SVR Hammer.
You can see just how much that Viper does pull on basically everyone else through the Porsche curves. While we were on that brief onboard on the front bumper, you saw him close right up to the exhaust on that 911 right in front of him. It's really impressive the amount of grip that car has and how much speed it can carry through those faster sections.
Yeah, it's just the problem is once you get out of the corner, the Porsche has the legs, so even if he can close up, he can't necessarily take advantage of the close that he made. So you can see there coming out of the corner. Actually, he jumped in the pits, didn't he?
Yeah, looks like we're getting a beautiful panning shot of the pit wall here.
Absolutely. Thrilling. There we go. So this is the pit lane. Nobody wants to see the pit lane, so let's move up to another on-track action here. There we go. So I think this is the SVR Red Corvette, I want to say, number 54. And if you guys head over to @thereal_TORA on Twitter, you can download the spotter guide created by THR Flat, our media person. Give it a look. It's got a lot of the cars, I think about slightly over 2/3 of them. All the drivers, the team Twitters, all that information is on the guide. So go check it out. It's a couple megabytes in PDF. Looks really, really good. And we'll be able to show you that between the stints here on SFM_official. So,
saw a lockup there from the Porsche just ahead of this Corvette. It's trying to extract the maximum performance from the car before getting it stopped there for that first chicane. And one thing that I noticed in my stint, I don't know if it was just particular to the way that our two cars were tuned, but the Badger Motorsport car and our SFM 911 had vastly disparate acceleration. At low end, the 911 would just launch right up alongside the Corvette coming around the corner. And as we got to high speeds, the Corvette just kept coming.
I think you're thinking of the Beast Mode Corvette?
Sorry, BM.
Yeah, there's two
Beast
BM
Mode.
teams, which is confusing.
Sorry, that's right. Sorry, Beast Mode, not Badger.
Yeah, this nice yellow car, right?
Yes.
Okay. On board with Sunshine here. But yeah, so like Snuff was saying, the cars make their pace in very different ways, and that can make for some really exciting racing.
It'll be interesting because while this is a throwback race, while we're running the cars from 2010 and 2011, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, turn 10 if you're listening, we might get some modern cars, including the rumored and almost confirmed new for next year C8R.
Yeah, the mid-engine V8 twin-turbo Corvette, because that makes sense.
Hey, I'm not complaining. It sounds awesome to me. I'm not a Corvette purist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a Porsche guy, but even I don't mind turbos on my Porsches if it makes them go faster.
Yeah, some people are like you, and they just want to see cool Corvette do things, but some people are V8 purists and will scream and kick all they want. Alright, here comes the pit for JSR. See if they adhere to the lines. They do. Very good. Perfect pit entrance there from the JSR driver. South.
Now let's find the is it Roadrunner who's in the car? Let's see where he is on track.
Roadrunner was just ahead, so it's going to be Venom and Servi that are going to be close on the exit. So we'll
let's track this until the JSR car comes out of the pits, and then.
So I'm highlighting south.
It looks like there's going to be just enough space. It looks like the JSR car should get out ahead.
Yeah, he should be at least a few seconds ahead, because both of these guys have had some minor issues here. And as we jump to south, it looks like he's out, and he's well ahead of Servi and well ahead of Venom. So, mission accomplished for south. No positions lost. Just Roadrunner, who's most likely going to be pitting in the next lap or two. Looks like SSR Inc. and TLR Scrublord are all over each other right now. P5 and P4. Beautiful red Mario Kart livery. I think TX3 Topher made this. Really, really funny looking. See Mario's face there. His big nose. Candy apple red sheet metal. There's a lot of creativity on display here, isn't there, Snuff?
Yeah, there sure is. And there's a lot of people have taken full advantage of Forza's paint tools, and I know that some of these cars can be a real challenge, but with the masking. So kudos to the painters that have really gotten to work and put together a beautiful field for us to watch today.
Yeah. So we'll make sure to highlight some of those artists as we make our way through the day here. And if anybody watching on Twitch would like to stop in for a short little interview, let us know, and we'll try to set that up. So it looks like Scrubboard is now starting to check out on Ink, so let's move our way up here. I think Mead may have just pitted. Yeah. Oh, Mead, you shouldn't have done that. Naughty, naughty boy. That was a very much illegal pit entrance from Mead. Yikes. So, Snuff, did you happen to read the rules regarding the pit entrance and exit regulations?
I did. There are white lines on both sides of the pit entry. They define the boundaries of the track. And exceeding those boundaries is an automatic 5,000-foot penalty.
So, that is just unfortunate for me. I happened to switch over at the exact wrong time. So there we are. Riding on board with Ace Captain Slow here. was thinking that Mead was going to come out pretty close to him in pits, but that appears to have not happened. Alrighty. So let's see if we can find some more battling going on here. Looks like Harmonic is going to start making his way through the GT cars again. We might actually get to see one of those super ambitious dives into the braking zone that I was talking about earlier. I think that's going to be BM Sunshine who's going to get overtaken. So let's actually watch this from his point of view. You can see the Peugeot coming. Now, Snuff, just look at the closing distance once they hit the brakes.
Oh, I'm well aware. This is something the prototypes catch quickly on the gas. They catch even more quickly in a braking zone, and sometimes it does surprise you a bit. It didn't quite happen there because the gap was just a bit too large, but they do arrive on the scene of the accident quite quickly sometimes.
Yep. So, one of these days we'll actually catch the crazy pass when it happens, but that day is not today. But Harmonic has kind of checked out on the field at the moment. You can see he's here on stream, so let's count the number of seconds here after we get on the curb. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 seconds already over Toru. So that would translate to about 2,500 feet, because this is an 8.5-mile track. That's a slow section. So Harmonic is putting on the same gap on Toru as he did to me in the last stint. No surprises there. Okay, nice move from Toru, catching up on the GT car. So let's see if Roadrunner is going to make that pit yet. He has not. So your leader on the road is Roadrunner. He might still be the leader after the pit cycle. So that's where we're at. Going to start seeing some more overtaking happening now, as actually it looks like Harmonic entered the pit lane, so we'll see how Toru does on his entrance. Nice and clean, no cuts there. That was good. And Harmonic is going to come out comfortably in front of Toru. So let's see now what Ace Captain Slow does. Is he going to go into the pits, or is he going to stay out and try to pass Toru? Looks like he's going to go into the pits as well. Come on, Ace, don't cut the pit entrance. Very good, okay. Nice and careful. Darkser approves. Ah, perfect.
Perhaps a bit conservative, but I'd rather lose a couple of tenths in the pit entry than lose most of a stint, well, not most of a stint, but a lot of a stint's hard work. So,
exactly.
Ace, being the polite Canadian that he is, of course, doing it appropriately.
And LSCM Boost also chose to enter the pits there. Mead continued on. I think Scrublord is also going to be coming in. No, he's not. So this is going to be Scrublord taking the position he should be in after that earlier crash. Come out in front of Ace Captain Slow and LSCM Boost. And it looks like there's a nice battle going on in GT that we should probably have a look at here. Turismo, Mr. Drive, and LSCM Zero, all in pretty close proximity to each other. SFM Pegasus versus LSCM rather, Ferrari. I think that TV camera should be zoomed out a little bit. What do you guys think?
I would give many things if we just had the trackside broadcast angles. As good as the cinematic shots look when you're putting together, say, a sizzle reel for E3. Not that I'm saying that was their priority, but as good as it looks for that, when you're actually trying to show wheel-to-wheel racing, some of these shots work, some of them don't.
Yeah, like this one's pretty good, the flyby. Get a nice sense of speed. Bumper cam into Indy is pretty good. The approach is nice, but oh, contact!
Oh, there's a lockup and contact into the rear of the Porsche. Looks like that Ferrari just had way too much closing speed. Didn't really give himself anywhere to go once he was committed to his line into Indianapolis there.
And you know who's going to benefit from this?
It's going to be the trailing Porsche, who's now right on his gearbox.
That's going to be Turismo, yep. So Turismo is going to get pretty close to these guys now. And arguably of the three, Turismo is the fastest driver. Driving for ESV today in the PlayStation Porsche. Scott, I know you're listening. What is this a throwback to? Is this a 2007 Porsche by the Matmut team? Because it looks kind of familiar. Or is this a Scottson original?
Red, yellow, and blue is a pretty safe bet for it to be Matmut. That's those are colors that have been seen around this track for many a year.
Yeah, decades, really. So Mr. Drive's still holding station here at the front of this little train. SSR behind, Turismo behind them. Oh, big cut from Turismo there over the curbs. I don't think that was intentional. You saw the lockup coming in. No advantage gained. Yeah, these three will probably be together for quite some time now. Looks like the overtaking is going to happen again, this time in the Porsche curves. Or rather, the Ford chicanes, excuse me. So you can see Harmonic is coming at a high rate of speed here. Just look at the distance of the acceleration close. And there it goes. That's going to mean Z-Bot is next on the chopping block here. In the mixed Corvette for Team VTX. Z-Bot is still on Team LMP, but racing with his buddies for this race. Not quite sure what exactly they're selling. Might be an energy drink. SFM has not tested the sponsor product displayed on screen. Use at your own risk. And you'll see Harmonic zooming by any second now. Maybe we'll see him come by on the exit here. Zermatt asking how Venom is coming on. He is doing pretty good, but he's losing a little bit of ground to the front couple of guys. We'll take a look at that now. So you see Venom has caught back up to South a little bit, so maybe South dropped back off of Servi, or maybe Venom just beast moded his way back up to the back of these guys. Not quite sure. Scottson now confirming that the Porsche paint on the ESV car is an original. Very cool.
Craviator pointing out what we discussed earlier, it looks like that indeed South and Venom here have linked up in these Aston Martins, and I would expect to see them start to go on a charge here. With them being nose to tail, despite running this close together, they're not going to hold each other up very much. And
these are two of the best in the Forza community, so no surprises that they're going to try to work together. Mutually assured beneficial movement, as it's called. So now, the question is, where is Roadrunner? The answer is, he's a little bit up the road. You see that little purple speck? We'll move up to Servi to demonstrate what I mean here. Just heading into the Porsche curves, that's Roadrunner. So first position in GT, Williams Roadrunner. Second, RZM Servi. Third, JSR South. Fourth, RBR Venom. And then it's about 5 or 6 seconds back to SSR Marshmallow. Still pretty close, but not as close as it was before. You know, Snuff, just sitting here looking at this BMW, it is the big boy, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly not as large as other BMWs that will not be mentioned that may or may not have become more of a meme than a race car. But it's...
Oh, cut there. Oh, two cuts. Oh, Servi, what are you doing?
He's going quickly. He's going well, but he's gonna want to tidy that up a bit because I feel hasn't he already earned himself a warning?
He has.
So and how many warnings do you get?
One usually.
Scott clearly commenting, just demonstrated intent.
Yeah, that is of course the Harmonic solo entry meme.
But as I was saying, the BMW, unlike the Aston Martin and the Porsche and the Corvette and the Viper, which are all dedicated sports cars. The M3 is a mid-sized executive sedan that's been hotted up and is really an admirable performer. This generation of M3 is one of my favorites. The combination of still being small enough to not be a boaty boy, and still having that, I know I said that I don't mind turbos earlier, but still having that naturally aspirated V8 that just sings. It really is a brilliant car, and it doesn't hurt that it is one of the fastest cars in this field. And I believe it had to be pegged back a little bit to balance well with the other cars around this track.
Yep, this car was actually originally made for the American Le Mans series. They were going to have a separate GT division for two-door cars, so if you just take a look at this car, you see it has two doors. Jumping back to, let's see, who would have a four-door car? We'll go to Mr. Drive just for the comparison. You can see that the Porsche has more than two doors. Well, the base model does anyway. But the BMW was given a totally different balance of performance, and it was just a completely different vehicle, and then IMSA killed the class and grandfathered the M3 in, and that's how Joey Hand rolled it at Mid-Ohio. The precursor to this car. Team PTG, I think it was.
Yeah, the Prototype Technology Group. Prototype being an appropriate name for that team because they'd previously run a prototype in a GT category. I don't care what anybody says, the M3 GTR was not a production GT racing car, and it never should have been allowed to run in IMSA. That's my rant for the day.
Yep, that's the car I was
Midland Zeta, I wasn't calling you out specifically, but you just happened to type that right as I was saying it.
Yeah. Sometimes it really do be that way. Alright, we might get to see another Bonsai overtake here. I think that's TLR Scrublord. No, it's going to be LSCM Toru in the Peugeot. Number 2. Making his way around the outside, around the inside into Arnage. Nice and clear. Almost Roadrunners himself there. Good heads up from Serbia to leave him some room. So Toru on a mission to try to keep up with Harmonic, who, as we mentioned earlier, is driving sick. He's not feeling very well, complaining of body aches, headache, but still soldiering on. So a sick Harmonic is still beating everybody. That's pretty incredible. It looks like there may have been an accident, just based off of the movements of the map. I think LSCM Boost may have just gone off. Beautiful Wins car here. Doesn't look like there's any visual indicator of the car being damaged, but he was very slow in Indianapolis. Did you see that stuff?
I did, but like you said, there's no visible damage on the car, so either he looped it and kept it on track, because it does seem like the gap has opened up a bit.
Yeah.
Or I can't really explain it.
Very strange. So some GT traffic going to come into play here. Ace Captain Slow playing it safe at the exit of the Porsche curbs on Turismo in the ESV 991. Big fans of the Wins paint in chat. Always cool to see.
Now, speaking of cars painted in Wins colors, are we going to end up referring that car to the stewards for a fuel tank inspection at the end of this race?
You know, I really hope it doesn't come to that, but it would be absolutely hilarious if it did. And bonus points in chat for anybody who knows what we're talking about. Let us know. A little bit of trivia here from this year's Le Mans. So, this number 3 car opened up by Diablo, followed up by me. Ace was given the keys and told, bring it home in one piece. Try not to die. So far he's doing just that. Keep on trucking. So a bit of a gap between the P1 cars now at this point in the race. That's kind of what you'd expect to happen. But up at the front, Cervi, Venom, South, still pretty close. You can see the gap opening up a little bit by Cervi over South. Some will wonder if those track cuts were why that gap is so large. Others will say Cervi's just fast. You might both be right. There's really no way to know. So why don't we do a run through the field, Snuff, NASCAR style.
I'll go ahead and let you do that because it seems like I'm a bit behind just from watching the shared screen here. Everything that you're saying is just a bit delayed, which is making it interesting. I really get that viewer's perspective as we see a little bit of a rear lockup there on the Peugeot coming into Indianapolis.
That's weird. Well, that Peugeot is LMR Harmonic, driving for the ESV Sport PlayStation. In the second position, LSEM Toru, driving for LSEM Scrubs Go Racing Demolition. I think that's how it's supposed to be said. In the third position, AMS Mead for Alien Motorsport. In fourth, TLR Scrub Lord for Tech Life Racing. In the fifth position, SSR Inc. in the SSR Rainbow, I think, car. Correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't have the guide up in front of me. In sixth, Ace Captain Slow for SFM Competizione, which I will be driving in a few stints. Whoa, big wiggle from Ace, nice save. In the seventh position, LSEM Boost in the LSEM number 8 car. I think this is the Team Avoid Mellish? Team Lightspeed now, okay. First in GT, Williams Roadrunner driving for SVR Purple. Second, RZM Servi for M3 by Servilicious featuring RZM. Then we have RBR Venom driving for the JSR X Joda and our boy Zoom entry. JSR, I just said that wrong. So Venom is driving the car. Yeah, okay, so I was right. So who's south in then? AMR and Aspire, okay, that was what threw me off. Don't mind us, we know what we're doing. Behind him, SVR Bratters in the SVR Red Corvette. Then we have Turismo in the ESV Porsche. Just behind him, LSEM Zero in LSEM Team Don't Be Mellish. SSR Marshmallow next up. Koenigsegg R for SVR Orange. Beautiful Viper. Mr. Drive in SFM Pegasus. Zbot 360 for Team VTX Racing OMA. SSR Outlawed TJ in SSR Red, which is actually blue. And bringing up the rear, BM Sunshine for Beast Mode Motorsport. So that is our run through the field here. Looks like we may be having some pit stops happening.
Be the running order at the top of the hour. We should be, if I'm not mistaken, approximately halfway through this stint now.
Yep, just about halfway. Alright, if anybody on the LSEM squad is available for a short little interview to explain the backstory of your delightful team names, please let us know, and we'll get you set up for that. Because it's a story that must be told authentically, such as the humor involved in the story here. So,
but it's also not a story a swordfish would tell you.
It's true. It's really true.
You ever heard the tragedy? I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, no. So now, if you were actually going to make that joke, I was going to have to kick you from the broadcast. I'm sorry.
You know, sometimes I do censor what I say. Rarely, but it does happen.
Yeah, and this was one of those times, so I can appreciate that. Alright, so LSEM the Butler taking up the challenge to explain the LSEM team names. How you doing, Butler?
Doing alright yourself?
Doing alright. You had an interesting stint one.
Yeah, it wasn't,
It's alright, say no more. So, why don't you explain all these Mellish references in the LSEM team names? Because I'm sure that everybody is dying to know what they're all about.
I'm sure they're not, but you know. So LSEM TORA, he was a recruit that we got around January, who was formerly HCR Daytona. And I don't know if you remember this at all last year, but there was a nice little moment on the broadcast where Mellish was being watched, and then just out of nowhere, Daytona just comes yeeting across one of the corners, accidentally having cut it, lost control of his car and just plowed right into the side of Mellish. And just as a kind of joke, we kind of decided to name a number of our cars after the incident, and I guess that hasn't gone too well considering that this year it's me that's gone into the back of the car. So yeah.
Okay, so it's a reference to a crash that happened, which was a little amusing for some, not so amusing for others, as most crashes tend to be.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't know. I talked to Melish beforehand, and he was fine with it all. So I made sure to clarify it all and that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, I just got back from Le Mans, and Melish was there, and we had a really good time. So I know there's no ill feeling between the both of us.
Yep. So if you're wondering,
I appreciate the commentary. Yeah, if you want to have an example of pictures taken moments before disaster, there is one of them.
So, Nani!
Oh my god.
So, thank you for indulging us here.
You're welcome.
So that was the story of Nani. A true highlight for the ages here on TORA. But I think we've got some news, guys, and it's not good news. It's really not. You can take a guess what it is. Or you can just, you know, not
sorry,
take a
talking to
guess.
me?
That's all right.
I wasn't paying attention.
I was talking to you, son. Yeah, I was talking to you.
Well, I'm going to take a guess and say that the stewards have been busy.
Oh, they have been so busy.
Well, what has the iron fist of the law decided is the appropriate punishment this time? What is the penance?
Please hold. Just confirming with the stewards here what the penalties are, so we say the right thing. Alright, boys, there's two penalties that are going to happen. That happened both in this stint, and I think it's time to reveal them. AMS Mead 212, minus 5,000 feet, pit cut. RZM Survey, minus 5,000 feet, repeated track limits violations. So Mead in the AMS car has been dinged a mile for yee-hawing the pit entrance. You saw that just as we switched over to him. And then in the BMW, RZM Survey has been docked 1 mile for repeatedly extending the track, mostly in the Ford chicanes.
Can we get F's in chat, please?
Yes, people have already beaten you too, and the Fs are falling fast and thick in there. And yeah, it's, you know, there were some concerns before the race that if this wasn't appropriately enforced, that people would abuse the track. And I think the stewards have made their point quite clearly here in these first couple of stints that the white lines exist for a reason.
Yep, they're there to keep you within them, not for you to drive on top of them. So, 2 wheels on the track. Hate to see it, but the long hammer of the law has been swung. Now, just to put that into perspective, 5,000 feet is going to be over about 200-something miles, so it's not a giant penalty, but spread out over 12 stints, it's not really that bad, but it's certainly not helpful.
Yeah, you know, in a competition like this where it can be decided by feet at the end of the 24 hours, a mile is not something that you want to be just throwing away.
You're looking at about, it's almost 13% of a lap. It's an 8 and some mile lap here around Le Mans, and so losing 5,000 feet is losing nearly a mile. That's the sort of gap that it really takes a lot of work to make up for, as we see Survey again extending the middle of the Porsche curves. One of his teammates might want to reach out to him and let him know that the stewards have taken a dim view of that.
So hopefully, all right, here comes Survey into the pit lane. All right, looks like he's going to stay within the lines on this one. Hopefully now he can catch up on what's happening as we go into the pit lane. So hearing of some potential additional drama here that may have happened. We'll have to get the steward's word of what's happening with regards to that specific incident. So there might be another one later on. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, whoever that was. So we're still on board with Servi, who just made his nice pit entrance there, which means that some other people will surely be making pit entrances very shortly. I think Turismo is actually in the pits now. There he is. So he's going to come out a little bit behind of the SSR Marshmallow car. Sorry, just getting caught back up here. So yeah, there comes Turismo right behind the LSEM car that he was battling before. Zero and Turismo are pretty evenly matched, so no surprises there. Mr. Drive just behind those guys. I don't think he's on the same pit cycle though. Let's take a look. So Mr. Drive clearly not on the same pit cycle, so he's going to lose a bunch of time. Or he pitted ahead of these guys, so they might be together, they might not be. Kind of hard to tell at this point in the race. So we're going to go back up to Harmonic, see if we can try to catch some of these crazy class interactions. Here's one, Squeeze. Mr. Drive not leaving very much room there on the inside. See the LSAM car getting blown past. Big lockup from the Corvette. Harmonic's just going to check up a little bit to set himself up for a good exit. There he goes. For all of our viewers in chat, if you see track cutting, feel free to clip it yourselves and submit a steward's inquiry. They can only react to what they see, so if you think something is happening and not being addressed, that's on you to bring it to their attention.
And it should be noted that at Le Mans there are some select places around the track where the inner white line is offset from the curb, and the Forza Clean track limits that are being interpreted for this race actually do extend to the edge of that curbing in those sections only.
Yeah, and you can see that on both of the chicanes in the backstretch with the big curbs. The white line's a bit inset. Finally, we get to see the crazy dive. Toru having to check up a lot. This is what I was talking about earlier. You lose so much time there. But yeah, Snuff, you're absolutely right. There is some spots that don't really matter as much, but there are some that are pretty unforgivable, like going super wide at Tetra Rouge or things of that nature. I think Roadrunner might be about to dive into the pits. Here he thought about it, but he ultimately... Oh, that's a cut.
I think he just missed his braking point for the first 40 chicane there, because you certainly wouldn't mean to do that.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he was getting ready to go into the pits, and then he second-guessed it, and by the time he did that, he was just too far for his braking point already. He just kind of slid through the corner.
Yeah. So that was not great. Hearing that there was some sort of other track extension that we just didn't see. Remember, commentators have about 4 screens we're looking at here. Lots of information. So again, if anybody has objections to the stewarding, take your own clips and then send them in. Oh, Roadrunner having some issues here. Off-roading. Still off-roading. It's so easy to run wide there if you go off before on the grass. You just don't have any sort of semblance of grip there.
Yeah, it's one of those things that just kind of grabs you and pulls you out by the wheels of the wheel.
Yeah. So we can now see that Servi has been reeled in a little bit by the 2 Astons with their draft. Venom and South catching up a little bit. can see another massive extend there on the BMW. Unfortunately, I think that was just oversteer though from the entrance. You can see Harmonic coming through.
A question from Bobby in the chat. It's actually a good question as to how we can both be commentators and stewards. The answer is that Darkster and I are not stewarding these incidents that we are broadcasting to you. The stewards' decisions that are being handed down are coming from the stewards panel who are reviewing the clips. They are not being... So while the adjudications are happening, we are not the ones doing them while watching this race. It's a good question.
Yeah, I can understand where that thought might come in, but yeah, for the stints that I'm broadcasting, I am not stewarding. But for the stints that I'm not broadcasting, I am stewarding. And to address Touch Rouge specifically, it was specifically written down in the driver's briefing that you can put the right side tires on the left side exit curb. So commonly, as Crab just pointed out, a lot of people think that's a cut. It's actually not for this race. It will dirty your lap in qualifying, but it's totally fine for the race. And you can see what all three of those guys just did there out of the second chicane. That's totally fine. Still using the curb, no issues at all.
As to Rich's question, why it says lap 3 of 3, call Dan Greenewald.
Alright, so going into Mulsanne Corner, really good lines through there. Again, oversteer from the BMW. It's so hard to drive. I'm starting to feel a little bit for Serby trying to control that thing with the Astons on his butt, but yeah. Alright, so still getting some pretty good action going on here, and there's another battle going on a little bit farther back in the GTs between Zero, Bradders, and Turismo. These guys are still pretty close. Turismo's fallen off the back just a little bit, but as we've seen in the other stints, that little bit of fall off is not worth that much time. Contact! Spin! You saw a lock up there from the Ferrari, and that left Turismo with no time to react whatsoever. Highly doubt the stewards are going to do anything with that clip, but damn, that's just unfortunate.
It did kind of look more like Turismo locked up, and Zero was following the car ahead.
Yep.
Well.
Yeah, I think that was just a chain reaction crash going on there, but ultimately that's up to the active stewards to decide, so we will pass that video along to them. So, bit of drama here. Doesn't look like any of them took much damage, if any at all. So that's where we're at.
And for those of you who watched the Canadian Grand Prix, you know it wouldn't be an authentic motor racing event if there weren't some sort of controversy over a steward's decision. So you want authenticity? You're getting authenticity right now.
Yeah, this is par for the course.
And Eclipse has a good point. It is a long race. This is only stint 3 of 12. We are not even a quarter of the way through the race yet. We haven't even gotten into the night yet. We're going to have night racing in the game. We are going to have drivers up at night in their own time zones as we saw someone run well wide there in the middle of the Porsche curves and almost tag the wall.
Where did he go? Oh, there he is. Okay. So one of the, I think that was the SR car.
The SSR car.
Having some problems. And it looks like we're missing some more pit stops here. Scrublord coming in. I think Ink is going to be coming in as well. Yep, he's going in. Elysium Boost probably as well. Nope, he's staying out. So Boost going to go for another one.
Going back to what Snuffleupagus said really quickly about people being up at the wee hours of the morning. I know Kiwi Chris is normally the guy that is the go-to for saying I'm up early during these races, but it's currently 3:30 a.m. I still can't sleep because this is still pretty exciting stuff.
But what is that in right side up time?
In right side up time, well, I guess it's exactly 12 hours ahead of Eastern Daytime.
Yeah.
See, not a problem.
Hey, just literally flip the clock upside down. Actually, no, that wouldn't work.
It feels like I'm living that way right now.
Alright, well, it looks like in the pit cycle of things that are happening here, TJ and Sunshine have made a pit and lost some time. The front battle, it's still going to be South, Servy, and Venom, with Roadrunner a couple seconds ahead of them. So we're going to jump back up to South here. These Astons are still right on each other. It's incredible. They're just so close. So much drafting. Oh, and they've gotten around Servi.
Yeah, this is something that we predicted a while back, that if these two Astons decided to work together, they would be able to haul him in. Now, it'll be interesting to see if he can stay glued to the back of them, because that BMW, while being rather difficult to drive at times, can still be very fast.
Now a little bit of bump drafting going down now.
Yeah, there's not much between them. That is a literal bump draft, nose directly to tail.
Yeah, and just watch as they go into the lift before... Oh, there's a prototype. Oh boy.
Ooh,
Who is that? Okay, that's going to be Scrub Lord.
that'd be...
Oh, where is he doing? He's just stuck behind them all. He's going to be infuriated getting stuck behind them. There he goes. So discretion, the better part of valor there from TLR Scrub Lord, not wanting to endanger the lower class cars. Apparently that was not TLR Scrub Lord, I don't know what I'm talking about, so we're going to figure out who that was. That was Mead, my bad. So AMS Mead doing that. Now he's going to try to get around Roadrunner. And I don't think Mead's going to know that he has that 5,000 foot penalty for the pit cut. So
No, he won't unless there's somebody in the party being able to direct that. We had that in Stint 1 with Ben still there after the safety car, but I'm not sure if that continued through to Stint 2 and 3.
Yep.
Looks like flip mode has the fire out, so that's good.
Yep. Yeah, it was actually Ali Tack whose PC was on fire, not flip mode. Looks like Venom and South are both in the pit lane, so we've missed those entrances, unfortunately. But they're in, and I think Servi stayed out. He did, so Roadrunner and Servi are out. Let's see if the undercut's going to work for these guys or not. I suspect it might, because it does historically tend to work pretty well. I think that's Ace Captain Slow pulling in back there as well in the prototype, and it is. So let's see if any of the GT cars are going to duck into the pits this time around. No, looks like they all stayed out. Zero, Mr. Drive. Drive flirting with cutting there, still on the white lines. There goes the SSR car, Mario Kart sponsor. Turismo in the pits. It's so hard to tell if people are coming into the pits or not because you slow down for Ford at the exact time that you'd pull off to go into the pit lane. So it's kind of tricky. So up front, still Harmonic by a very large distance over everybody else. Probably partially due to pit cycle, because while he's fast, yeah, it's pit cycle because he only has 11%. So we'll see this large gap still be large, but it's going to come down a bit. You see Toru, the entirety of the straight after Mulsanne back to Harmonic. That'll probably shrink by about half. Red Cell, there's approximately 15-ish minutes left in the stint. Snuff thinks a half hour.
Well, until the next one begins, but because of course they don't race all the way to the top of the hour.
Right, but there's people are doubling, so we're gonna have to wait for this one to conclude.
That's correct.
Yeah. Bobby, SFM will be taking you through to the end of stint 11, and then YMTV will be taking the reins for stint number 12. All right, here comes Harmonic into the pit entrance. Squeaky clean, using just the right amount of extra room there,
Cool.
and he's good.
He had that dialed in right there.
Yeah, you can gain a pretty good amount of time by taking the pit lane more expediently than other drivers.
Yeah, stint 1 I had a good opportunity to undercut, but I messed up in one of the sand traps by pushing too much, so, you know.
Well, here we see TLR Scrub Lord showing fourth with Boost in fifth, but as you can see, Boost is clearly in front, so Thank you, based Forza. Probably comes down to how they're taking certain corners, the amount of distance the rear wheels are taking here. Cyberpunk. I think that's the new game that just came out with Keanu Reeves, isn't it?
Well, it's not out yet, but that is the new project coming out from CD Projekt Red. It was featured rather heavily, had a very impressive spot with Keanu Reeves, of course, calling the entire crowd breathtaking, which became a good meme for about a week.
Yeah. Boosting the bits.
And it's heavily anticipated.
Yeah. So, if you're fans of the Witcher franchise, that's probably where most people know CD Projekt Red from. But there you go. Hulk claiming that there's a penalty for not having a spotter's guide. That is objectively completely false. So whoever came up with that is, I'd like some of what you're on. It's just not true.
I think that might be carried over from last year, just in terms of what people think. Because I think last year, last year I think wasn't it that you were disqualified if you didn't submit a spotter's guide photo on time?
No, that's not a thing. Alright, so Servi and Roadrunner are both exiting the pit lane now. You can see just how small that gap is now. Only a couple of seconds. 1, maybe 2.5 seconds between these two guys. And that's going to mean that we're going to see Venom and South any second now. Whoa, okay, there goes Venom.
Ooh.
There's South. So Servi not gaining or losing anything. Bit of a cut there from South behind. Not a fan. I don't think there was any reason to do that. So South, Servi, Venom, still really close. Remember, just because you're close to another car doesn't mean you have to cut the track to stay close to them. You can still do pretty well just driving normal.
Alright, well, Dark, you've done a great job commentating so far. I'm afraid I must leave you now, though, because for some reason you've decided to let me drive the SFM Pegasus car, and that means I've got my invite to go join the lobby.
You know, Snuff, I think that may be a really smart thing to drive the car when you're signed up. So I commend your decision.
Yeah. Alright, I will return eventually.
Alright, so thanks again to Snuff for jumping in. So that means we're getting close to the end of this stint here. It's only 3:30 Eastern Time, so that's going to be 8:30 British Summer Time. So we're getting about a quarter of the way through the race here. So Butler, when are you next up, if at all?
So I'll be driving again. I think originally it was stint 8 and 9 and then 12. But I'm still driving the wheel right now, and at the end of that stint, my braking foot was actually hurting a little bit, so I don't think I can manage double stint. So it will look like 8, 10, and 12 for me.
You still have the Thrustmaster from the Le Mans Esports Series?
I do, although I bought my own one just before they sent theirs out, because I literally got the one that they sent out like a day before I left, and it was a European version, so I couldn't even use it. So that's a rip.
That sucks. Alright, well, we're going to jump up to LSEM Boost here. It looks like he is hunting down SSR Inc. And I think Ace Captain Slow just had a problem of some sort. The car does not look happy. Let's check it out. No, it's fine. So, not sure what Ace is doing there, but back to the battle. Oh, bit of a slide from Boost. And there was a nice cut there from Ace, so in the interest of fairness, we'll put that as well. So
I think it's fair to say that, I mean, while some of these cuts may be intentional by some people, I think a lot of it is just these drivers trying to push themselves and their cars to the absolute limit.
Yeah, and you're not going to get a penalty just for one cut. It's a pattern of behavior. So.
Yeah. Oh.
Alright, so let's take a look back at this GT battle. Williams Roadrunner up in front, and that's SSR Marshmallow in front of these guys. He is off pit cycle, so Marshmallow might be playing interference for another one of the SSR cars, just trying to hold the leaders up a little bit. Or he might just be running his own race and simply not been overtaken yet. My inclination is that it's the latter. So
yeah,
that's my
Marshmallow's
prediction.
going to slash himself. I think, well, before he was SSR Marky, and I'm pretty sure he was one of the podium finishers in the Canadian Challenge behind Race Boy.
Okay, yeah.
So he's definitely good, just not up with these FRC level drivers, I would say.
Yeah, I was not aware that he participated in the FAF challenge with Raceboy. That's good information. I'm just going to turn your volume up a little bit, Butler. Very quiet.
Sure thing. I am speaking a little bit quietly just because it's the early morning hours and I don't want to wake anybody up.
Yeah. So we're now approaching the end of the stint here. Not quite at the end, but we are getting a little bit nearer to it.
I feel I should address Bobby here. I'm not saying that the cuts people are doing right now are intentional, but I think we've all been in the Forza public lobby, and I think that's what I was trying to compare to, not people in this race particularly cutting intentionally, just more so that these people here are, human beings and they make mistakes every now and then, and that's just about what we're seeing is they're pushing through as hard as they can. I do not mean anything in terms of any of the drivers on here intentionally coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be expected that there's going to be the occasional extension. It's the pattern of behavior that we're looking for. If people are doing it over and over and over again. So let's see what's going on track here. We're at that weird point in the race where most of the battles are done and dusted at this point. There are some people that are still pretty close, mostly in GT. And flip mode, do you happen to know if Yacht's PC was able to survive the little smoke event from earlier? Hate to hear of any of the Forza community having that kind of issue. So Ace is a little bit behind Boost now. You should see him coming over the horizon any second now. And Butler, did you see that, or is the driver's foot hanging below the floor in the R15? It is.
Yeah, I think that I think that can stem back a little bit if we want to the Indy 500 event where you had some drivers going around without a car, just sitting there and kind of flying, and some cars being submersed.
Yes, that happened a few times. That's pretty funny. All right, well,
I think this is a new LMP powertrain where the driver is actually running along the ground at hyperspeed.
Whoa. Speaking of hyperspeed, Battle for the Lead is now a draft train of 3 Aston Martins. With Sarvi just a little bit back, maybe like a second and a half in the 4th position. So they're still well within striking range if anything were to happen to these 3. But not close enough to where he could throw a dive bomb.
Oh, and it looked like the SBR car got a tiny bit on the dirt there, and that's going to mean that the JSR, Yoda, and Zoom car
Pass for the lead.
Go up the inside. Goes to deep. That means the SBR car's going to get back around and back through the Dunlop curves. You see the SBR car pull back in front.
So Venom threw his web, didn't stick. Roadrunner spun the wheels. Here we are. Heading into Tetra Rouge. See who's braver. Sarvi is closed up a little bit. everybody makes it through clean there.
And I think it's going to be closed up a lot right here as you have the two Aston Martins in the back. The one's going to be pulling, the other one's going to be pushing, and together they're going to be able to get back up towards that SVR car, probably towards the end of the straight.
And you'll start to see, as they come through this part of the track, that they're going to try to stay on the opposite side as Roadrunner. You see he's a whole other lane to the left there. There it is on the brakes. See South hanging back a little bit so we can get a good exit. Because you don't want to be too close, because if you're right on the car in front of you, you're not going to be able to actually put any of the power down coming out of the corner. So that was really smart driving from JSR South there. Again, you see these two are in the line. Roadrunner is not. He's trying to predict where they are. They're trying to prevent him from getting the draft.
It's really top-level driving here, as it seems like they're just trying to pull that train back together slowly. It'll be interesting to see if we start seeing more moves pulled as we get closer and closer to that end race time.
Yeah. Especially the early couple stints, sometimes we'll see teams work together just to build up a gap. That's probably what's happening here. These three are all buds in real life. They all hang out sometimes at the FRC competitions. So, not surprising, but when they want to battle, we'll know because they'll be battling. And it looks like Zero is still all over the back of Bradders here, the Ferrari and the Corvette. Red and black cars, both of them. Big block up there from the Corvette. It's going to let Zero catch up a bit. No touch eclipse, that was just a little bit of lock up there. So not sure who painted this car, but it is really nice looking. Kind of almost like a cracked patina on it.
Yeah, that one comes courtesy of one of our newer paint recruits. I'll say newer, he's been with us for a couple months now. It's LSM Rizla GT.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Rizla is a fantastic painter, so good to see that. Otherwise, it looks like a pretty spread out field here, except for that lead pack, so we're going to jump back on board with RBR Venom. All over the back of Roadrunner. It's in turn being chased by JSR South. And this is not normal for an endurance stint. Normally, the lead one or two cars are way in front of everybody else, but for these three to be this close after this long is pretty great. See Roadrunner extending there. I think he might have gotten some contact from behind. Hard on the brakes. Into Ford Chicane 1. Into Ford Chicane 2.
Just popped his nose out, and you have Harmonic now coming up behind. Shouldn't be too much interference.
Nah, I'll just get him on straight. Nice and easy through there.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting to watch, because obviously these three have just decided that they're going to try and pull as much distance as quickly as they can, and it's basically going to be the order that's established at the start of the race, followed through until the last 10 minutes or so, I'd say, until people will start either making mistakes or making moves at each other. But
yeah.
Until then, it seems like these three are just really becoming one entity.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Butler. So, just for a little bit of additional context of just how small the gaps are right now, the first position GT car is SVR Purple at 421.92 miles. Second is the JSR car. That's the green Aston that we're looking at, or excuse me, the blue Aston. That's at 421.6, and then third one is the ESV Porsche at 420.6. So they're pretty close at the top. It's anybody's game at this point.
You said it was the Porsche that was third, though. They've dropped off a fair amount in this stint, I'd say, so it's possible that the third Aston Martin, I'm not sure which one it is, could jump them after this stint.
It's probably going to happen that way, just because of the way that car's stints are planned out. Some teams are front-loading their stints, some are balancing their heavy hitters through. The car that South is in, the AMR car, the blue Aston Martin, that one's going to be a little bit more of a yo-yo through the field. Still going to expect a really good result for them now. And it looks like Venom's going to try to send it around the outside of Roadrunner here. He's going to shove him off a little bit. Nothing doing it there.
Yeah, they've got to be careful with moves like that. I think there it was really just Venom got the run, but the more that these guys start jostling with each other for position, the easier it's going to be for Serby to come up and be part of the mix. Yeah.
It's just a numbers game at this point. And this is, again, this is very unusual for the end of a stint. This is normal for the beginning, but after this long of time, for these three to be this close, going this fast, that is just so cool. Venom's got the lead now. Roadrunner second,
And,
South third.
I don't know if you saw that, but Mead came up at exactly the same point that he came up the last time that he caught up with these cars.
Yeah.
And got in exactly the same situation again.
Yeah, Mead was doing pretty good there. Alright. We've got to be getting near the end of the stint now. Just look at how close they are. It's incredible. It's like watching slot cars. Now, it's also incredible that they're this close. It's not like it's ebbing and flowing. It's the whole lap. Every lap. And Serby's closing in.
It's incredible as well because these cars feel very different in the draft. If you have someone behind you pushing up, you lose a lot of your rear downforce. If you're in a middle position there, like who's I think Roadrunner is, then you'll be losing downforce in both the front and rear. And if you are at the back there, like South is, then you'll be losing a bit on the front. So all three of these cars are potentially handling a little bit different to each other, but they're all managing to put in pretty much exactly the same laps.
See again, going through turn 1, into turn 2, into 3. Big Aston train, 36 cylinders of Aston Martin right there. This is basically a TASCAR race. Midlands 8 is absolutely right in our Twitch chat here on SFM Official. TASCAR is TORA's NASCAR series. Up the inside, Roadrunner through Tetra Rouge. What are you doing, man? That was the most ambitious GT pass I have ever seen in my life. Oh my gosh.
And it's going to leave the front to the 2 wide. It's going to be up to South now to choose which car he's going to follow, and that's going to be Venom, as he now slots into the number 2 position, and that's basically, I know at one point it was Roadrunner at the front of the train, and now he's at the back.
Yep. Bit of contact there between Roadrunner and South. Roadrunner's going to bail out of that to let South not die. Smart driving there. And now we're going to see the Tech Life car make its way through off the track. Okay, I wouldn't have done that, but whatever. I think he probably thought he couldn't safely get through in the middle there, but for anyone else watching, don't do that.
I think, it's an interesting one to judge coming through there because the cars either swing out all the way to the other side of the track or they hold tight on that side, and it's one of those 2 lines, and you basically have to take a 50-50 guess on which one it is.
Yeah. So Roadrunner's going to be the odd man out here in the back. Nobody's got a side to pick, and you can see that little black speck in the back. That's Serby. Still making his way forward. Coming into the big braking zone. Who's going to be braver? Roadrunner to the outside. Alright, wisely he's going to back out of that because that would put an illegal overtake. So now it's Roadrunner versus South. But Venom has the draft from the AMR car. JSR South at the wheel.
You see Roadrunner there's hanging in there with that side draft, but ultimately it's going to be South that pulls ahead as he has the inside for all the kinks and the priority of the draft.
From contact! South's been sent! Oh, nice save from South there. Roadrunner left it a little too late into the Indianapolis lead-up. And well done for JSR South to hang on to that car because it did not look happy.
Yeah, definitely getting the most unsettled that's been in this entire battle here. Really good job to hang on there.
So now South's going to have a look up the left side on the approach to the Porsche curves. It's typically not where you want to be. He's going to back out of it. That was wise. Maybe try to send it up the inside here. No. Good defense from Venom. It's going to force Roadrunner to try to look up the right side of South. That's going to put him on the wrong side coming through the exit. And Roadrunner's going to go around the outside in the Porsche curves. Oh my goodness. Williams Roadrunner making moves. Slinging that Aston Martin around like this is British GT. And now he's in the second position.
Track. There's a lot of places on this track where you can and will a lot of times succeed going too wide in the same spec cars. The Porsche corners aren't normally one of them.
And now Survey's within a second. The top 4 are within 2 seconds after about an hour and a half. That is insane. And if you're just tuning in, this is the TORA Endurance 24-hour Le Mans Revisite, a quasi-throwback to the 2011 race between the turbo diesel Audi and Porsche, excuse me, Peugeot. And what you're seeing there is a clinic by RBR Venom, Williams Roadrunner, JSR South, and just trailing those 3, RZM Survey. Absolutely fantastic racing right now. Looks like South has fallen off a little bit there, and Survey is going to be starting to make a pass on South after all this time. Now that BMW has the top speed on the Aston, so now that he's in the draft, these two might absolutely fly up to the rest of that leading pack.
That's going to be interesting. Is South going to be territorial over his position, or is he just going to say, look, let's just work together here and push back out to the rest of the pack?
See, that would make sense, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to predict at this point in the race what people are going to do. Because it's such a risk-reward calculation that is always going on. Do you go for it? Do you not go for it? What's the motivation behind the move?
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the M3 is a lot stronger in the corners, so it's actually really beneficial for Survey here to be in the drafts, being able to be dragged along, and then potentially look to make a move in one of the later, more technical sectors.
Yeah, that M3 is a handful, and you were saying into the corners. Yeah, on the brakes it's better, but in the actual turn, the Aston is the superior car.
Okay.
Yeah. Alright, let's see what Survey's going to do here. Alright, just trying to give South some room there. Gets a terrible exit out of the corner, but South has to check up for Roadrunner. And there goes the SSR car again off track. Normally, we don't like seeing that, but in this case, I think that was probably the safest way to do that, just to avoid, everybody dying. So, ends up driving there.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see that Survey's having to take slightly different lines to the Aston Martins ahead of him just because of the abilities of his cars. Oh!
A little bit of a touch.
A bit late on the brakes there, just as we're saying that. Just gives South a bit of a nudge, not really anything to worry about as we see Boost go past him.
So imagine you're in a prototype and you see that the GTs you passed 40 minutes ago and 20 minutes ago are still there. It never ends.
Well, think of it like this. Imagine that you're one of those GTs and you've been training for the entire race.
Near disaster there.
And start splitting you guys.
Sorry, Butler, but Ace Captain Slow almost took out the 4th place GT BMW. Good to see Ace is actually paying attention there in traffic. He's going to make it through now that it's safe.
It might be close on one of the front Aston Martins.
Oh god, 3 wide. Ah! Okay, he's through. Whew! So, door banging for the battle for the lead. Roadrunner's going to force his way through around Venom, and Roadrunner is in the lead here with, it's got to be only a few laps to go at this point. Roadrunner has muscled his way past Venom. That was the elbows out if there ever was. Servy's right up on the back of South now, so it's Venom versus South versus Servy battling for second. Roadrunner out in front, but he is by no means safe. He's still in the draft range, he's still within dive bomb range. There's nothing to it at this point. Making our way up to Tetra Rouge here. Perfect exit lines from all four drivers. See the BMW. Oh, what happened? The stint's over.
Oh! Oh, okay. I thought that was a crash there for a second. I was like, what the hell?
Well, it was, but they were just all trying to stop. So you see Venom's going to back up a little bit now to get into the correct position. South as well as the Servy. It's pretty much the only time it's ever allowed to go backwards, just to get back to the position you should be in. Totally acceptable from those four. So great job to all our drivers. And let's take a look through the field with our results. So in first, we have LMR Harmonic. Absolutely no surprise there. Fantastic drive, battling, not feeling well. Good job, David. Second position, LSEM Toru, completing the stint this time for Scrubs Go Racing LSEM. Third position, AMS Mead, number 47. Beautiful paint scheme on that car. In fourth, TLR Scrublord in the Tech Life Racing entry Audi. Bringing up fifth, SSR Inc., number 45, Mario Kart. And somebody has disconnected. So we may not get the whole order here, but we'll try to get as much as we can. Here's LSEM Boost, number 8, Wins car. And bringing up the rear in LMP1, Ace Captain Slow, and the SFM number 3, which I will be driving in about 4 hours. First in GT after that incredible fight is Williams Roadrunner for SVR Purple. Then we have RBR Venom in the JSR car. Then JSR South in the AMR car. RZM Servy for RZM. Servylicious. SSR Marshmallow in the SSR Red car, which is actually blue. Koenigsegg R for SVR Orange. See, some people are double stinting, so they're going to be leaving. So, see Koenigsegg, there he goes. BM Sunshine here. SSR TJ in front of him. Zbot 360 in the VTX entry. Turismo 83 in the ESV car. Mr. Drive SFM Pegasus. The SVR Bradders in SVR Red, the Corvette. And we're back up to Marshmallow. So that is stint number 4 completed. Thank you very much, Butler, for joining me in the booth for that. It was good to have somebody else to chat with as well.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to be heading off to bed now, though, so
all right.
I wish you the best of luck in continuing this.
Thank you very much, sir. And I hope you have a nice rest. All right, so that is the end of stint number 4. So we are going to now make our way over to stint number 5. So bear with us here while we get that situated. Just give me a few minutes here while we transition between locations. And in the meantime, you get to look at the beautiful SFM M Performance BMW M3, which I also painted. So that was stint 3. We're going to head over to stint 4 now. Very exciting, I know. So let's make our way over to that now. And if anybody watching on Twitch would like to come and say hello, give us a shout out and we will set that up. So stint number 4, drivers in this stint are going to be ESV Scottson, driving the elusive Peugeot Sport PlayStation car, LSEM Jesco, who you probably know more recently as No Doubt Flat Out, Ace Captain Slow doubling up for SFM, AMS Huracan taking over for Mead, TLR Law doing his first stint of the day for Tech Life, LSEM Insanity, taking over from Boost, Envy from Inc. for SSR, and that's LMP1. On the GT side of things, it's going to be TPR Zermatt taking over again from Venom. Williams Mitch will be starting his first stint, replacing Roadrunner. AMR Lawrence will be deputizing in for South, SSR Bobberts for SSR Pink. Chasmo will be hopping back in the elusive Porsche. RZM Phoenix will be hopping in the car that he painted, the M3 for RZM. Snuffleupagus, the commentator you heard from for such a long time last stint, back in SFM Pegasus. Koenigsegg R doubling for SVR Orange. VTX Yashli for the mixed Corvette. Zombie Gut Kill for SSR Red. BM Adler Girl back again for Beast Mode Motorsport. And SVR Twitch for SVR Red. So we're just going to get the rest of those drivers assembled here. And then we'll bring you some updates of what is happening across the other lobbies. Because remember, there are effectively 3 races within the race today. We have A lobby, which you've been watching, B lobby, and C lobby. Anybody can win. It's most likely going to be somebody in A lobby, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. So again, we're just waiting on everybody to get into the race here. This is going to be the first night stint of the event. 4, 5, 6, and 7 taking place under the cover of darkness. So that's something to look forward to, a little bit of an additional variable here. And additionally, Elysium Boost has been given a warning for track limits, and Turismo 83 has been giving a warning for causing a minor collision, but he gave the spot back, hence no penalty. So if you are just tuning in, this is going to be stint number 4 in the TORA Endurance 24 Hours of Le Mans Revisite, a throwback race to 2011. And just a quick question to our Twitch audience. Is everything looking correct in terms of frame rates and whatnot? How are we doing on that end?